Frankenstein. Henri Clerval, who was born in the city of Geneva in 1775, was a good man. He wanted to go to the university. His best friend's name was Victor Frankenstein. The Frankensteins family were a rich merchant and lived in Geneva. They were Swiss. Frankenstein had a sister. Her name was Elizabeth, and Victor's parents brought her from Italy at farm. Her father died when she was born. Victor worried about natural secrets. He thought there were a lot of secret in the deep of water of the lake, on the glacier, and in the things. One day Henri and Victor Frankenstein were visiting when the thunderstorm broke a line of fruit tree. Suddenly they blinded and were unable to hear. Then they were able to see and hear again. They saw the first thing, the remains of a tree, black and smoking. That Henri thought that an idea lightened in Victor's mind. Several times later Victor decided to go to the university at 17 years in German. His father Dr. Krimpy taught at the University of Ingolstadt. Henri wanted to go to there, but Henri's father didn't want. Victor's mother was very ill. Then she called Elizabeth and Victor. She wanted to marry them. Henri and the Frankensteins family hadn't been seeing Victor for 2 years. Then Henri went to Ingolstadt. Victor's letter stopped completely about September of the following year. Victor had indeed left the university and he was following some studies of his experiment. Dr. Krimpy wanted Henri to go to the university to find Victor. Krimpy paid for his studies. Henri left Geneva late afternoon. He went to Ingolstadt by many vehicles. After he arrived the city, he started to seek Victor. Several times later Henri found Victor's house. Henri knocked the door. Then Victor opened it, but he was changed. He was very different. His face was old with wild eyes. Henri got into the house. There was disgusting smell in it. Henri and Victor went down a long, dark passage. A bed stood on the floor and there was a table near the window. The evening shone with difficulty through the dirty windows. Victor did some experiment about alive and death. He taught that, a person like a clock. If a clock showed it to work again. If a person died, you would shake it with lightning to live again. Victor took away Henri a room. It was dark and scary. There was a smell rotten meat in the room. There were a lot of copper, glass pipes and a kind of basin in the middle of the room. Henri looked into basin, but at first he didn't see anything. Then he saw some hair and a shadow. Secondly, he understood a deaf man in it, so he was afraid. He thought Victor was a madman. Henri thought the man who was in the basin was more than 2 meters tall, long, gold hair. After this shocking times, Victor wanted some help to Henri about to do this experiment, and Henri accepted. Victor used lightning for enliven the death. They finished all preparation. Only they had to fly the kite. There was a big window on the workroom's wall. A minute later they flied the kite far and far. Then the lightning had hit the workroom. Henri and Victor lay on the floor. All things was broken and the basin was, too. The deaf man lay on the floor. Victor thought was the experiment failed and his hopes was the end. They felt tired, so they decided to go to bed. In the morning Henri woke up and saw a shadow at the door. Then he saw a monster a bit. It wasn't perfect man as they thought. His face was ugly, but on the other hand it was very strange and very tall. His arms long in front of him. Henri couldn't say anything because he was terribly worried. Then Victor woke up and he saw the monster, too. He stared at the monster. Henri thought the monster wasn't a wild man because he didn't attack them. Suddenly Victor rebelled and walked near it. Victor became irritated because the monster wasn't beauty and perfect man for him. Victor ran after it. He didn't accept to make it. He went back his house in Geneva. Henri didn't go with him. Because he didn't finish his duty. He had to find the monster. But there weren't news about it. One day Henri heard there was a monster in the forest, so he went to see it. The monster wasn't a bad man. It was hiding some food for a blind and old man. Later he went again in the forest, but it wasn't there. Henri arrived in Geneva, There was a hanging. Geneva's person was there to see that Justine's died. Henri didn't know why Justine was hanged. Then he saw the Frankenstein's family was there and he went near them and talked. Then he learned that Justine killed William, but it wasn't true. After several times Henri learned how William was killed. The monster strangled him. After this event Victor decided to destroy the monster. There was a news in the city that a monster had been seen at Mont Blanc. So Victor and Henri went there. They saw it on a glacier. They talked with it. They learned that the monster wanted to marry as ugly a woman as itself. It would believe to be happy if it married a woman. Victor accepted to make a woman for it. After that day he started to create another monster. Some days later the monster came Victor's house and climbed up Elizabeth's room. Elizabeth had gone to for a minute, so she still didn't sleep. She saw a shadow at the window, then she saw the monster and shouted. Henri and Victor came her room but nobody at the window. Victor understood that it was monster. Victor mounted a guards for Elizabeth. Victor looked for a body for another monster but the policeman caught him, so he went to prison. His father tried to extract him from the prison. Then Victor was extracted. One day when Elizabeth and Victor were in their hut, the monster came there and destroyed all things in the hut and kidnapped Elizabeth. Henri and Victor looked for everywhere to find him, they couldn't find her. The monster postponed a peace court for them to fend itself. Then they found it on the edge of the cliff. It was carrying Elizabeth. Victor and Henri climbed up for save her. They climbed edge of the cliff and Victor wanted to kill the monster with a knife. The monster took the knife on Victor's hand. Suddenly a light flashed and a great noise. The monster and Henri died. There were ashes and charcoal everywhere. Henri saved Elizabeth. They went back their house and old Frankenstein gave Elizabeth to Henri. They got married. Their first son given the name of Victor.